Delighted to introduce our guest speaker this evening. We are so blessed to have Kelly Whitehead, who is a rising third-year rabbinical student at Hebrew Union College Jewish Institute of Religion, who will be giving the Devar Torah today. Kelly will be ordained in the year 24. And one of her classmates, who was her roommate in Jerusalem, Max Antman, is here with them as well. And certainly Max is no stranger to this congregation. And as a matter of fact, a few years ago, Max gave an amazing Devar Torah on Pride Shabbat. And we know, Kelly, of course, you'll do the same. And sometime you'll have to see what Max said when he spoke. We're also delighted that we actually have another rabbinic student with us here. Hannah Bender is with us. We have two Batei Din, two rabbinic courts here of rabbis and cantors, 6 of us. It's really amazing. Kelly grew up in New York City before moving to Washington, D.C. And there they worked as the youth engagement specialist at Temple Sinai, D.C. and URJ Camp Harlem. Kelly participated in the Reform Movement's Juvenation Jew of Color Fellowship, where they learned to create and facilitate anti-racial bias training for Jewish professionals. They serve on the board of Torah, the Rabbinic Call for Human Rights, and just last week for Juneteenth, Kelly wrote an amazing Devar Torah for Torah. If you haven't had a chance to read it, I did post it on my Facebook page. Torah also has that, but I know you'll be inspired after you hear them speak to continue to listen and learn from Kelly. I got to meet Kelly last year because, as I already mentioned, she was Max's roommate in Jerusalem, and Hannah was in Jerusalem at the same time, and we had many good times with Shabbat dinners and trips to Jerusalem and to Ramallah and to my apartment also in Jaffa. That we had those 3 months on sabbatical. Some of the best moments for me were certainly spending it with these amazing rabbinical students who are going to change the world, both the Jewish and otherwise, and we are so lucky and so blessed to have Kelly with us today. Kelly. You can go sit down so I can see you. Okay. You can take your mask off. I will. There's a drink of water for you. Oh, wow, thank you. Different to be here. Yeah, I know. We're all getting used to it. It's amazing. Thank you.
Often, when I speak from the Bima as a queer Black rabbinical school student, I share stories of suffering and hardship. As a diversity, equity, and inclusion consultant, I speak on microaggressions, biases, and sorrows experienced by myself and other Jews of color. And as a Jewish adult and student of Torah, I know it can be easy to focus on the times of curses, distraction, and pain. Because as Jews, we have in fact done a lot of suffering. Many of our holidays, before we get to the eating, have us recall despondency of humanity, the Israelites, and the Jewish people, from the time of Eve's pain giving birth to recent experiences of anti-Semitism. Even in this week's Torah portion, Balak, God punishes the Israelites with a plague. A few verses earlier, Balak, the king of the Moabites, asked Balaam to curse the Israelites. Balaam saddles his donkey and heads out against God's will. When God realizes, God becomes angry and sends an angel to stop Balaam from cursing God's chosen people. The donkey sees the angel and refuses to move any farther, despite being hit by Balaam. God speaks through the mouth of the donkey and tells Balaam not to curse the Israelites. When Balaam reaches the camp of the Israelites, he gives a blessing in place of a curse. Being queer and Black is something that in so many places and generations should be a curse. Instead, I have the privilege to choose to see it as a blessing. After this horrible 1.5 years of hardships in the world, on top of ongoing systematic oppression, I am choosing to focus on the blessings as an act of resilience. In my choice of blessings, I reclaim power of myself and my identities. I choose to focus on joy. After all, it's Pride Month, and expressing joy is a mitzvah. The word for joy in Hebrew, simcha, appears 428 times in the Hebrew text. Sorrow only appears 103 times. Joy is an intrinsic part of the Jewish experience. As a Black Jew, there are many places where my race and religion beautifully intersect, where society has told Black people to be quiet or that we're too loud when having fun. Reveling in joy is an act of resistance. On the news and when scrolling through social media, our feeds become even more inundated with images of Black trauma. Stories featured on the TV shows and movies I binge focus on the struggles of being Black in America over time, because Black people have disproportionately struggled in America over time. Forms of media romanticize the problems of Black diaspora. Amid the civil unrest ignited by multiple Black deaths related to police brutality and racial discrimination is a sense of loss, and at the same time, a deep need for joy. However, we have also had triumphs and laughs and happy moments. Joy I experience with my Black family temporarily mutes the hardships and remind us we have a right to exist. The idea of Black joy as a movement and a form of rebellion has taken root. Mei-Ling Malone, African-American studies professor at Cal State Fullerton, explains, Black joy is an act of resistance. The whole idea of oppression is to keep people down. So when people continue to shine and live fully, it is resistance in the context of our white supremacist world. Instead of romanticizing Black trauma, Black joy brings forward the humanity of Black people. One way to achieve this is through allyship, and solidarity against a future where joy must be defined in a trauma-inflicted context. Dalia Ali Raja, founder of the project Fear Black Joy, or Black Fear Joy, says, being joyful and being seen as joyful and living happy lives by itself is a revolution. For hundreds of years, cultural oppression and systematic racism has perpetuated the idea that Black joy cannot be long-lasting. If we don't see images, how can we build up a tolerance for joy? I believe that representation is essential to helping others focus on their blessings. I'm also lucky to know many of the joys of being queer. To me, that looks like being able to hold hands with my partner everywhere we go. Often the stories that I consume when scrolling through my largely straight social media feeds or when binging queer TV focus on the traumas of coming out, the AIDS epidemic, discriminatory laws, and the incompatibility of living in a heteronormative society. Instead of being distraught, I focus on the blessings to combat feelings of invisibility and marginalization. I choose to smile and laugh with my partner while holding their hand in the suburbs, in rural areas, at airports, on public transportation, so young kids will know that you can both be visibly queer and joyful. Holding hands and smiling is my act of resistance. This is a choice that I am making, and I cannot speak for all Black and queer individuals. Honestly, I am choosing to focus on the blessings because I am exhausted. I am tired of letting the instances of homophobia and racism I experience constantly get me down. Each small act of bias I receive feels as if I'm getting a paper cut. A small stinging burn that acts as an inconvenient reminder long after the incident has happened. The paper cuts add up until I'm too busy healing my wounds to be present in the moment. I'm immensely privileged because I have the time and space and resources and environment to focus on my blessings. It is just as important to challenge white supremacy as it is to practice self-love, which leads to joy. I have the privilege to express queer Black joy in this moment and avoid toxic positivity. While I can hold on to my joy, I constantly remember that not everyone can say the same. The joy I embrace along with other queer and Black people does not cancel out the suffering we face. Suffering and joy can exist at the same time together. And while joy has immense healing power, I can best experience these blessings within a supportive environment. Just as the Israelites prepared to enter the promised land, I envision a future within the Jewish community that is completely safe for all people and all of their identities. Those who do not identify as queer or as a person of color can help all of us experience joy by checking your own biases. You can be aware and conscious of the language that comes out of your mouth and offer blessings in place of curses that hurt those around you like paper cuts. The power of your words can be as meaningful as the blessings of Balaam when you call out racism and homophobia, regardless of the identity of those around you. Shabbat.
I have to say, it makes me joyful to hear Kelly speak from our Bima. Kelly, you really are an incredible blessing. And to remind us that when we recognize our blessings is when God is really speaking through us, and how important and powerful it is to do that, and how difficult. Thank you for reminding us of the importance of doing that, both to celebrate the joy by being joyful in a moment with people we love, but also in making sure that we recognize the suffering and check our biases. What a beautiful and important message. Thank you so much, Kelly. Great to have you here with us. And better not be the last time. I'm inviting you again. Although I may have to invite Hannah to give our Torah first, huh? Make sure everyone gets an opportunity. I'm going to bring this, oops. It looks like I can't see it otherwise. Causing problems here? Okay. All right, thank you. Thanks. So I thought it appropriate for this Pride Shabbat that we give a blessing, a Pride blessing, thanking God for this moment to being together. So I hope you can see it on the screen there. If you can, I bring it a little closer so I could see it and we can pray together. It's blank. Oh, did I pull it out? Okay, sorry about that.
Check the connection.
Oops, now mine went out. I don't know what happened. There we go. Excellent. Thank you. It just needs Becky's touch. Can never do anything without her. So let's pray together. Beloved, there is only love. If you only love, around you only love. Not a touchy-feely pop song kind of love, but a love that knows every secret corner of your fragile, fabulous being and says, yes. Yes to your desire, yes to your difference, yes to your diversity, whoever you are, whatever beautiful spirit God created you to be, shine fearlessly and courageously. We need you and the divine light within you to sparkle through the prism of your body and brighten the world with the glorious rainbow. Never forget, you are loved fiercely and forever. Amen. As we continue together now on page 5.